We just got a puppy recently. I'm gonna do this, and it's gonna cue a bunch of adorable B-roll of our little Bodhi living life better than me. Jesus Christ. So when we first got the puppy, all of my friends were super excited, couldn't wait to meet him. My family, on the other hand, was a different story. My mom dramatically said she would never, ever come over again. My brother Johnny were a little worried about the dog, and my dad said he's not scared of them, he just doesn't like them. So this was always the norm for us growing up, but we never really stopped to wonder why most of the Western world adores pets so much, but a lot of the Arabs we grew up around with, not so much. So today we want to dig in a little bit about why most, maybe some Arabs are afraid of cats and dogs.
He's so big.
So we obviously never had any pets growing up and always thought that keeping them in the house, feeding them, taking care of them was just such an American thing. Anytime we visit friends who did have pets, it was usually our first interaction with these wild animals. We were naturally a little scared. And our friends also still make fun of us to this day because by the time our mom let us out of the house, we were grown-ass men and we were scared of dogs. Anyways, there's a funny story when we were growing up when a dog was following, maybe chasing Johnny home from school. And my mom, upon seeing this, instead of going to help her son, shuts the door in fear and leaves Johnny to fend for himself with this dog. And that's just a demonstration of how strong this fear is. A mother who would do anything for her son except for face a dog. Even to this day, my mom, if she's visiting friends or family who have dogs, even little puppies, she warns them that they need to stay in another room, stay on a leash, stay away from her, or she will and has screamed so loud the neighbors will hear it down the street. So because of stuff like this, there was always a little bit of a disconnect for us about why our family thought this way about animals, while other people would let them in their house, put them in their little silly outfits, and even let them lick their faces. Today we want to stop and look into a little bit about why most Arabs are afraid of cats and dogs. In the Arab world, pet owning isn't really common except for maybe hunting and guarding. There are street dogs, though they're generally considered pests. Cats often also roam the streets and people do feed them and take care of them. But owning one or keeping one in the house is not very common, and most people aren't interested or can't afford to do so. But it wasn't always this way. In the early days, with the nomadic societies, most people had large flocks of sheep and goats, and dogs helped to protect them from thieves, protect them from running away, or other predators. So dogs were considered great protectors of these investments because sheep and goats were their main assets at this time. And they became very valuable companions also on hunting expeditions. This would change with the shift from nomadic societies to ones centered in cities. Like they did in the countryside, dogs were used to protect property, shoo away invaders, and most importantly of all, they would eat garbage. From Damascus to Beirut to Cairo to Istanbul, urban authorities really encouraged dogs to help keep city streets clean by eating its trash. Even encouraged building watering troughs or troughs, I don't know how to say it.
Troughs.
For dogs. Mosques would put out food for them, and butchers would also help feed dogs to keep away vermin and rats and other things like that. So dogs were considered very helpful companions, and cities were much cleaner with dogs than without them. Given this history, where did the shift in attitude occur? The short answer is disease. About 200 years ago, people started to change how they think about contagion. While still a far distance away from what we now consider to be germ theory, people in the Middle East and Europe were starting to think about how disease was spread. And during outbreaks like the plague, cholera, and other things, people started to really worry about disease coming from places like garbage heaps, swampy lakes, and cemeteries. So city planners and leaders now wanted to excise the sources of these diseases from their crowded and sick cities. So when they targeted and started taking trash to different centers outside of the cities, they also unwittingly pushed out a lot of the dogs who survived and lived on this trash. And before, dogs kept cities clean, and now humans did. So obviously, the historic connection between dogs and trash did not serve them well. Not only was there now less trash in the cities, the trash that did remain was seen as a threat to public hygiene, so it was gone, and so soon too were its canine consumers. In just a few decades since the early 19th century, dogs came to be seen as economically useless and hazardous to public health. The result? Several large-scale dog eradication campaigns, less dogs in Middle Eastern cities, and most importantly, a change in attitude towards the animal. No longer useful and productive urban residents, dogs now came to be seen as dangerous, disease-ridden, and expendable. To learn more about the subject, there is a book that I referenced called The Animal in Ottoman Egypt by historian Alan Mikhail, which talks about human-animal relations in this region during this time. If you'd like to learn more about that, you can find the book in the link in the description. However, some extremes still persist. As recently as 2006, Saudi Arabia's religious police put an outlaw on the sale of cats and dogs in 2 cities. The cat part of the ban is a little puzzling because unlike dogs, cats have been revered in Islam for centuries. Prophet Muhammad even had a close companion nicknamed Abu Huraira, father of the kittens, because he always kept a kitten on him and took care of it and loved them. In Islam, cats are considered to be holy animals. Above all else, they're admired for their cleanliness, probably because they're always cleaning themselves. But this cleanliness is why they're allowed to enter mosques and homes, and you're even allowed to do ablution with water a cat has drank from or eat from a bowl that a cat has eaten from. So this is mostly why cats are given a little bit different treatment than dogs. There's even a famous tale about the Prophet Muhammad's love for cats. One day, after he awoke from a cat nap to the call of prayer, he found that his favorite little kitten, Muazza, was sleeping on his prayer robe. So instead of waking up the kitten from its nap, he cut the sleeve around the kitten so that he wouldn't disturb it from sleep and continue on to go do his prayers. So, in conclusion, the reason why most Arabs don't like cats and dogs is a little bit of urban planning, a little bit of religious belief, and more than anything else is just lack of exposure. Most Arabs grow up in these crowded cities and apartments, and they don't see them in these domestic roles. Their only exposure to dogs or even cats are in rural areas where they aid in hunting or protecting their livestock. I was even surprised recently to find out that my grandma, who isn't necessarily quite fond of animals, had a dog growing up. They had one at her father's farm, and he would help protect the house, protect the livestock, and when they moved to a city apartment, they no longer kept a dog. So more than anything else, if obviously you grow up without ever interacting with animals, you're going to be a little bit uncomfortable around them and maybe even a little scared. It was just the result of my brief research, so it's not presented as fact or capital T truth. We're happy to always learn more on the subject if you know anything that would be interesting to find out. Thank you for watching today's episode of Between One Very Large Monstera. I hope you enjoyed and learned a little bit something new. If you have anything interesting you'd like to add or questions about the topic, please feel free to drop them below. If you did enjoy it, share it with friends. Please like and subscribe, and look out for more content soon.